Welcome, Coro. We really appreciate your leadership and taking the time to do this interview with us today.
Happy to be here. More than happy. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. As always at Setsi, we like to begin all things by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we're on. We also acknowledge our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We like to acknowledge all of our elders and community stewards whose shoulders we continue to stand on as we build and share together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So please, can you start off by just introducing yourself to our viewers and listeners?
Yes, hello. I'm Coro Strandberg. I'm here today as the chair of the Canadian Purpose Economy Project, which I'll speak more about. I come to you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, otherwise known in this area as Burnaby, British Columbia. And in addition to being the chair of the Canadian Purpose Economy Project, I'm the president of my own consulting firm, which of course goes by the name Strandberg Consulting.
I love that. Thank you so much. Can you tell us about the origin of your work and how are you disrupting multiple ecosystems in Canada?
Oh my gosh. Okay. As Strandberg Consulting, I have been helping businesses become a force for good for decades. Back in the day, we called it corporate social responsibility, then ESG, environment, social governance, and then maybe 6 or 8 years ago, I started becoming frustrated with those methodologies because they really were not achieving the vision that I had for business as a force for good. And what I realized is that businesses were bumping up against their purpose and were not centering their ambition to be a force for good in their purpose. So they never really, they were managing their CSR and the ESG off the side of their desk. So in my own business, I started to support other companies to adopt a social purpose as the reason they exist. And we define a social purpose business as a business whose enduring reason for being is to create a better world. And then that business with a social purpose doesn't just bring their ESG to the table or even their social impact to the table. They bring everything that the business does. They unlock their assets, their resources, their competencies, their relationships, their reach, and their influence to double down on their social purpose and to achieve their social purpose. And so I started working in that space and was contacted by the United Way, British Columbia, who asked if I could help them set up something called the Social Purpose Institute. So we created the Social Purpose Institute together and helped upwards now of about 50 businesses adopt a social purpose as the reason they exist and to implement their purpose and to bring their purpose to life. And having done that for many years, we held a summit under the auspices of the United Way BC Social Purpose Institute. We held the first ever national summit on social purpose in Canada 2 years ago in 2021 in the fall. And at that summit, we consulted the emerging social purpose community on what they thought would be the key drivers to create an economy by which all businesses in the economy had a social purpose as the reason they exist. And so that created a strategy, if you will, and a number of other things which I'll elaborate, but that's how I got into this. And it was after the summit that the organizers got together and thought it was time to create an initiative in Canada called the Canadian Purpose Economy Project. So then it was launched a year after the summit, a year ago, November 2022.
I love that. Thank you so much. That sounds like amazing work that you've been up to. An exciting way to get started. Can you articulate the mission and vision of the Canadian Purpose Economy Project?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we would have a purpose, being the Canadian Purpose Economy Project. And actually, our purpose is to accelerate the transition to the purpose economy. And we define the purpose economy as an economy that's powered by the pursuit of long-term well-being for all, in which businesses and regulatory and financial systems foster an equitable, flourishing future. So that's our overarching purpose. And through that, we seek to create an enabling ecosystem by which social purpose in business becomes the norm or becomes the default. And by becoming the norm, we can then create this purpose economy. And we hope to collaborate with others, other ecosystem actors, to create an enabling environment for social purpose business to start or transition. If they didn't start with a social purpose, transition to become a social purpose company and then thrive and grow. And then we bring the social purpose movement together to create this enabling environment so that social purpose businesses can, as I said earlier, unlock all their assets, influence, reach, and scale in collaboration with others. Now, we also have a vision. And that vision is that by 2030, so we use the date of the Sustainable Development Goals, that by 2030, at least 1/4 of Canadian businesses are adopting, disclosing, and critically, authentically embedding a social purpose across their operations and relationships. And the other important piece of this vision is that they are collaborating with others to achieve it. Because no business can fulfill its social purpose on its own. It needs to collaborate with others to achieve it. So we have in mind that by 2030, businesses are unlocking their assets and reach and scale, and relationships in collaboration with civil society, with academics, with the financial sector, with investors, with governments, etc., to realize the social aim or the societal aim of their purpose. And we use the language of social purpose, but it could be a business that has an environmental purpose, or could be a socioeconomic purpose or a socio-ecological purpose, but it is a purpose whereby the business seeks to help society address its challenges and meet the needs of the world. And the reason we chose the number 25%, you could ask, by 2030, that 25% of Canadian businesses would be operating in this fashion, is that according to systems change theory, that's the number by which we would create a tipping point. If 25% of businesses have the social purpose, then the next year we expect that we'll see 100%, a pivot to 100% take up of this approach to business.
That's really interesting. It sounds like you guys are leaving nobody behind. So I love the approach to really take everyone and show them the way. So how important do you feel that impact investing in philanthropic innovation is in the work that you do?
Well, it is 100% important, though I will add a plus to both of those.
Okay.
Because the way we see investing, in that we're trying to create this enabling environment by which businesses by default would have a societal purpose. The way we see investing is that we would hope that investors would start asking the companies that they're invested in, what is your purpose? And not only what is your purpose, but how does your purpose get implemented through your strategy, through culture, and through capital allocation. So we hope to mobilize all investors, not just impact investors, on this question, so that all investors in the economy would then know what is the purpose of the firm or the fund that they're investing in, and that investors would come to understand that their capital is going in to finance the success of that purpose. Like in the end, that's what the finance is being used for, the capital is being used for. So when I say plus on impact investing, it would be where the impact investor had information on what the societal purpose was of the business it was investing in, and then would have metrics against its purpose. So the impact metrics would also be against the purpose. So that's the plus on impact investing. And many impact investors could well be doing this today, and we don't yet know. So we're broaching impact investors now to start to have these conversations with them about, do they know what the purpose is of the funds that or investments that they have, and what are the metrics against the purpose to segment strategy. And then the plus on philanthropic capital is we seek to mobilize more than philanthropic capital. we're mobilizing all capital towards the purpose of the economy or towards the purpose of business, mobilizing all capital. So philanthropic capital in a social purpose company, for example, so some percent of its assets will be philanthropic capital, but we want it to bring all of its assets to the table, all of its capitals to the table, and harness all that that business is doing towards its societal purpose, which basically we think of that as embedding your social purpose into everything you do. And on the nonprofit side, we see a new lens for nonprofit organizations and civil society organizations, so the other side of the business, if you will. Now they would be partnering or collaborating with the business on the business's societal purpose.
I like
so
that. I love how it ties together.
Collaborating. I'm sorry, what's that?
I said I love how it ties together, and it really becomes really seamless, a cohesive economy, which is what's necessary. So it sounds like you're really passionate about the work that you do. What inspires you most about your current model at the CPEC?
Well, what inspires me, maybe I have many inspirations. I'm inspired talking to you for starters. And maybe that's my main point. I'm inspired by the receptivity to the people that I outreach to and start collaborating with to create this enabling environment. People understand it intuitively. And all work that we do is with and through other people. So I find that inspiring, is the receptivity of people when you say that we're talking about the purpose of business, and people kind of get that right away. I'm inspired also about businesses who are these social purpose companies, and they're pouring their heart and soul into their purpose. Even so, they want to transform their industries so that their industries or their sectors become social purpose too. And many of these social purpose businesses are SMEs and small, and it doesn't matter. They still have in mind to transform the industry and to support the industry to make the association. And then I guess now I'm speaking about industries. I am starting to see associations move in this direction. So think professional association, think industry or trade association, think any place where organizations and people come together through these associations. And more associations are becoming interested in what is their own social purpose as an association. Is it just to serve members, or is it also to serve society? So I'm thinking associations, seeing them open themselves up to these questions. And then I'm seeing associations becoming interested in introducing their members to social purpose business and operations. So I'm inspired by the opportunities ahead. They seem to be fairly clear cut about what it is that needs to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely. So what challenges or barriers do you face in your work at CPEC, and how are you and your team working to overcome them now?
Well, just thinking off the top, the main barrier, like, I guess, okay, maybe, like, is entrenched ways of, is the old economy, I guess you would say. That's the villain in the piece. That's the old economy. And everybody, north of 40 probably, I don't really know, but their education, their experience, and their training has been in the old economy. And the incentives are for the old economy, not this purpose-driven economy that we're defining. So I think that, that kind of speaks to the profit orientation that so many people in business and civil society and government, they believe that businesses are there to create profits for shareholders or generate revenues for owners. And so that's really what we're up against, is that entrenched mindset. I think like that's the ultimate challenge, is that entrenched mindset. And even education, like educational schools, business schools today are still teaching the profit shareholder model, not teaching these sort of social purpose models in the core curriculum. So we have these as barriers ahead.
Absolutely. So do you have a key set of priorities that you're working on right now?
Yes. I mentioned we did consultation during the summit. and landed on, I'm going to say, about 10 levers to activate, to create this enabling environment by which social purpose business transition, thrive, and grow. So what are those levers? I'll speak to maybe 3 or 4 of them, though we have many more, but just to give you a feel for what our priorities are. So a main priority is to mobilize CEOs of purpose-driven firms to create a coalition of them to speak out to their peers and colleagues, encouraging them to look at the social purpose business model. And we have a CEO call to purpose that businesses, purpose-driven companies can sign and demonstrate their enthusiasm for this model. And we hope to create a movement around that signatory platform. So that's one priority. Another priority is, we were speaking about investors earlier. So we do have a priority to reach out to institutional, retail, and impact investors to introduce to them a set of purpose due diligence guidelines that we've developed. So these are a set of maybe 10 questions that if you're an investor, that you could be asking the firms or the funds that you're invested in to find out if the firms that you're invested in or the funds have a purpose and have embed their purpose in their strategy and in their culture and capital allocation and incentives and executive role profiles and a number of other metrics. So we've got these due diligence guidelines. That's a priority to get them out, and we're looking to identify first movers who want to be first in to test these guidelines. And ultimately, we hope to make this a global approach, a Canadian model that becomes kind of a global approach. Second priority is related to boards of directors. So we perceive that if boards of directors of companies were informed about the need to make sure that they had a social purpose or even a purpose at their company, and if directors were educated on what's their role in oversight of the purpose. A lot of companies adopt these purposes, but then the boards don't have oversight of it. So it runs the risk of being a tagline or marketing slogan or not implemented. So we have created a set of guidelines for boards to embed into their own governance so that they can have effective oversight of their purpose. Another related priority, of course, is disclosures, because there's a lot of guidance out there now, more and more coming, on how companies should disclose their ESG, environmental social governance performance, but there's no guidance on how companies should disclose their purpose. So we run the risk of inauthenticity if they're not disclosing on their purpose. So we are creating guidelines for annual reports for companies that have a purpose so that they could disclose their progress on implementing their purpose, and so that auditors can come in and assure those purpose disclosures. So with investors looking for this information, and then boards embedding it and governing it, and then the disclosures providing information to stakeholders, including investors, it's sort of like a triumvirate of policy initiatives that we're working on that we think once activated then will accelerate take up in business. And 2 other quick spaces that we're working in is business schools. Because we have in mind that business schools, of course, should teach social purpose business models in the core curriculum. So we've developed a rubric for what a business school can do to embed it into how they teach strategy, how they teach finance or accounting or technology or whatnot. So we have a rubric for embedding social purpose into all of that curriculum. And we've been collaborating with Corporate Knights, which has just completed a study looking at how social purpose business, how business schools around the world, whether business schools have a social purpose is the reason the business school exists. And also looking to see if business schools are embedding social purpose at the MBA level. So we've got those results, and we will be using that to talk to Canadian business schools about education. And then the last one that is really taking off is associations. And we have a group of first mover associations who are themselves adopting a social purpose for why the association exists. And then they are starting to provide education to their members and including social purpose in the designations and their curricula and other kinds of tools and platforms that associations have, so that eventually we can be in a place where sectors have a social purpose, entire sectors, that the purpose of steel could have a social purpose and the purpose of chemistry could be to create societal benefit. So we have in mind this route by which we'll hasten acceleration and scale of social purpose business in Canada. So we want to create a Canadian model. We want to forego the 30 years of, how long it took ESG to get formally organized. We want to make this a 5-year plan and create a Canadian model that through associations will then be able to take into an international context towards this overall aim of creating a purpose economy.
I mean, that's amazing work. It's beyond necessary. So we really champion the work that you're doing.
Join us.
Absolutely. I could definitely see myself, because I think that there's, as you stated, a way that all businesses can have the social purpose. I think starting with the 25% is amazing. And like you said, it can catapult into 100%. It's just so easy to add a cause to what you're doing, or see the impact that you can have, on the economy and the community. So moving along, how do you feel about the future of impact investing and venture capital in Canada here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am going to go back to what I have said earlier. But big vision with this focus on the purpose economy, all investing will be impact investing. So that's the aim.
That's good. And beyond what you've already spoke on, what is your ultimate goal for CPAC, and what does success look like for you and your colleagues?
Yeah, well, I have to just add a little bit on the former. All investing is impact investing, but what I really mean to say is all investing is purpose investing. All, like, just this perspective where your capital is flowing into a finance a business's purpose. So what is its purpose? And then what are the metrics against its purpose as embedded in strategy, capital allocation, and culture, et cetera. So that's, where all that's headed, impact and venture capital, finance, et cetera. So the ultimate goal, well, we do speak about a purpose economy, where basically everything that humans touch has a social purpose. Now, I have to say, this isn't expressed in our documents or our website. We have our vision that all businesses would have a social purpose, but I think the grand vision, like, why can't this pen have a social purpose? My glasses, what's the social purpose of, my glasses? What's the social purpose of our conversation here? Well, we know what that is, but what's the social purpose of any conversation? Like, what's the social purpose of a project, of a department, of a production process, of a holiday? So the grand vision is that, the human experience and human enterprise is infused with this idea of being a force for good for humanity. Yeah. So that's the grandest vision of all.
Yeah, I love, very well put. So that was, again, amazing. I love all the different highlights that you made in the work that you're doing. Again, we champion the work that you're doing. Do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for the community?
Mm-hmm. Well, join us. We have our website, of course, purposeeconomy.ca, and sign up to that to stay up to speed with our developments and our work and opportunities to become involved. Please spread the word. The businesses that refer them to us. We don't help businesses get a social purpose, but we could help them find other advisors who could do that. But mobilize the businesses in your own ecosystems to have a societal purpose, so that they bring all of their assets and ingenuity and social innovation to bringing their purpose to life. Think also about your own work and your own projects. We have this idea of a social purpose professional, and that's on our website, by the way. The myriad ways in which a professional or anyone in community could be bringing social purpose into their own day-to-day experience of their work, and bring it into your organization. We're focused on social purpose business, but what's the social purpose of your organization? Introduce your associations and your sectors to this. We've got resources and materials on our website for most of the work that we're doing already, so refer others to our materials, and join with us as we want to join with you, and let us know about your work and how our respective interests intersect, so that we can collectively accelerate towards this future where all enterprise has a societal benefit, and then we could be within reach of a sustainable future for all, in which no one is left behind, and more so everybody's at the front.
Absolutely. As you said, the more we connect, we will be able to get there, and everyone will be aware of, the social impact that they can have with their organization. So thank you so much for sharing, once again, taking the time to, one, do this interview, but of course, like I said, the remarkable work that you're doing. We really applaud you, and thank you so much for that. We just want to close the way we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we are on, as well as our ancestors and elders, all those who toiled without compassion, those who we continue to